Communication is something we do all the time, but I do make a distinction between communication and quality of communication, emphasis quality. Communication, or I would say quality of communication, is to relationship what quality of breathing is to life. And I think that's a very good parallel idea. I can breathe and it's helping me to survive, but I can also do like some deep inhale and exhale breathing, or maybe box breathing or other breath techniques that will really help me to get into a really quality state.
That's a pretty powerful comparison. Yeah.
Yes. And for me, the same is true. I can either way just bubble ideas, and we're communicating, we're exchanging. And, you can have a quality of exchange and information, and the communication really breathes life into a relationship where you feel resonance, where you feel seen and heard and understood and felt by another person. And that to me is important. Want to really have this human exchange and resonant quality of presence and relationship. But even more so when you have difficult topics where we may have different, maybe even opposing ideas. Today, I find it more and more important to be able to sit with difficult conversations and have a quality of how to communicate in a way that it's deepening understanding and not being right or being wrong.
AVVA Talks, inspiration for a sustainable and fulfilling life. Hello and welcome to our Evolutionary Leaders podcast series dedicated to leaders, teams, and organizations that want to generate sustainable performance and progress, transform challenges into resources, and contribute to make the world a better place. In our today's conversation with our special guest Eva Wieprecht, we address the challenges of enhancing the quality of our communication and develop the ability to hold difficult conversations. Eva Wieprecht is the director of the International Virginia Satir Institute of Germany, international speaker, trainer in generative change work, and she also facilitates systemic trainings and workshops using the generative systemic Satir model, Ericksonian hypnosis, as well as somatic integration and movement approaches. In this episode, you will learn how easy you can significantly enhance the quality of your communication and therefore the quality of your relationships by paying attention and implementing at least one of the tools that Eva mentions in the podcast. And also, to make sure you are not missing out on important topics for you, make sure you subscribe to our channel and get notified when new episodes are released. Enjoy.
Hello, Eva, and welcome back to AVVA Talks.
Hi, Alina. Nice to see you again.
It's been a while since we last had our conversation, and I'm really happy that you chose to be here today again with us. And as we open the conversation, as this is something that we discussed a little bit previously about the topic that we will address today. And in fact, we both consider this as being a very important topic for all of us. Although it may sound simple, it proves to be a pretty complex one. And that would be the communication process.
Communication is something we do all the time, but I do make a distinction between communication and quality of communication, emphasis quality.
And what would that mean for you more specifically?
Yeah, I've been sitting with that question a lot. That I love the quote from Virginia Satir, who says that communication, or I would say quality of communication, is to relationship what quality of breathing is to life. And I think that's a very good parallel idea. I can breathe and it's helping me to survive, but I can also do like some deep inhale and exhale breathing, or maybe box breathing or other breath techniques that will really help me to get into a really quality state.
That's a pretty powerful comparison. Yeah.
Yes. And for me, the same is true. I can either way just bubble ideas, and we're communicating, we're exchanging, and you can have a quality of exchange and information, and the communication really breathes life into a relationship where you feel resonance, where you feel seen and heard and understood and felt by another person. And that to me is important. Want to really have this human exchange and resonant quality of presence and relationship. But even more so when you have difficult topics where we may have different, maybe even opposing ideas. Today, I find it more and more important to be able to sit with difficult conversations and have a quality of how to communicate in a way that it's deepening understanding and not being right or being wrong.
Mm-hmm. I hear quite often people saying they have trouble in relationships, either personal or professionals, professional relationships, because of communication, of poor communication, or of communication issues. How would you address those issues? That if somebody comes to you and say, okay, we have communication issues in our relationship.
Yeah. First of all, I think it's important to know that each one of us have their own minds and map of the world. And sometimes I think there's a misunderstanding that you think whatever I talk about, let's say I talk about respect, or I talk about trust, or I talk about love, that we all have the same exact understanding about what trust means, what love means, what friendship means, what success.
We assume that the other one is perceiving things exactly like we do.
Exactly. So there is a complete description. It's like making a nice cake or cookie making. It's a whole recipe that's connected to the right ingredients that will ensure that we're having a nice cookie dough for a delicious cookie. And the same is true for communication. I need to transmit specific informations that will ensure that the other person can have a similar idea around what I mean when I talk about, I like you to give me certain results for, I don't know, for sales or for my marketing department. And I think we're assuming way too much that the other person knows exactly what we're talking about just because we know the words. So to me, what's really important is, one, that we are addressing valuable questions like who is responsible, what are we talking about, when is the timing, when is it due, how much time do I have, what specific criteria are important to use, or what's the method, what's the procedure specifically, and why is it important? And if it's not working out, what are the impacts? What are the negative impacts? To answer these questions in order to have a very very clear image of what I'm expecting of you, so that I transmit specific details that are really important.
So to clarify very specifically what is the topic about, and how each person needs to be involved in the relationship rather than assume and not ask any questions for different reasons. So questions before anything gets developed.
Yeah, totally. And I recently learned about an acronym which I thought was very helpful in terms of maybe also difficult conversations or holding different standpoints or being more clear. It's an acronym called PLAN, and it actually stands for P as of purpose. Like when I'm the sender of information, like, do I know what the purpose of this communication is? You know, is it a feedback conversation, or am I just wanting to make contact and just strengthen the relationship? Is there a certain result that is due? So be very clear about what is the goal, what is the purpose of my conversation, because when things may get heated sometimes in a misunderstanding, if I have a contract with my purpose, it's easier to keep my eyes on the prize rather than being distracted by where the relationship moves, and if I may feel uncomfortable at times because I may feel misunderstood or something like that.
And work as a compass, yes.
Yes, it's like a GPS. And then there's L, which I find the most important these days, especially when I think about parenting, or, you know, let's say for teenagers, or if I'm a leader of a team and I really want to ensure that I have a quality of communication. The L stands for listening. It's the quality of active listening to what the other person is saying, and if it's really accurate what I'm listening to. So for me, the L is a really important one. Listening to what to really empathetically understand the position of the other person. And then A is for which I was just alluding before, is for asking questions. And for me, it's the open questions of where, when, how specifically, why important, for whom, and also timing, when, how much time do we have for this, and being very clear about all this, the different contextual territories, so that we have all the details. And then N is for beginning to plan the next steps. Like if this is a successful conversation and we like to make this to have a better understanding for each other, what is the next step that will help us to go and move into the right direction? I think focusing towards the future and having the mindset like we can do better each time we have a quality conversation, with the purpose of more understanding, more clarification, more towards the goal, and that in a good relationship. I think that's really helping us also to head into the wanted direction.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned earlier something about difficult conversations and how we can change the quality of a conversation while being in a difficult one. What can one do just in the middle of such difficult conversation?
Yeah, it's something that I find to be very important, and at the same time, I want to honor it's really difficult to have difficult conversations, as important they are. It's not simple. So for me, it one is having a commitment to, when things get tough, and it's about to clarify maybe a misunderstanding, to have a commitment. I'm going to stay in the conversation and be as present and focused and in relationship and in connection as possible. And that may take a little bit of training to, maybe stay with looking at the person, towards the person, and really seeing them. And I sometimes like to have a peripheral view so that I don't lock too much into somebody, but just widen my vision. I remind myself of taking a deep breath, noticing maybe I get stuck. My breath may get shallow, or I'm getting ready to just react because I want to make a point, but just allowing my body to help me to maybe relax a little bit more. There's another acronym that I like to take as a GPS, which is called CROACH, which means in a difficult situation where I find maybe I feel a little threatened by the point somebody else makes, I may easily get tension. I contract, my body starts to tense, or I go into a reaction mode where I rather want to return the point rather than really understand. So if I'm noticing I'm in this contract reaction mode, but what I just said, I become aware of it. I notice, I'm opening to notice that what happens is I'm trying to more make a point rather than really go for understanding. I could maybe take a breath and relax for a moment and just say, okay, I'm noticing I'm really reactive. Let me just take a moment to hold, to pause, so that I, in the opening, as I notice, I become more aware again of my partner, who I talk to, my body sensation, maybe noticing I'm sitting in the chair and I can just kind of lean back. I notice my feet on the floor so that I can root and anchor and ground myself again to become more present. And then I may need some resources. I may need some support. Maybe I have some questions ready with me, or I may take this little acronym of the plan to have a guiding method to help me to say, this is not about winning. This is really about clarifying, about understanding more deeply. And that may help me to hold my emotions that I feel that may be uncomfortable, but also the misunderstanding that may be in the room. But I focus on my purpose of saying, I really like to sit with you in the uncomfortable to understand each other a little bit better because we have a goal, and let's focus on that. And that's a guiding principle for me to help me stay on track as much as possible when things are getting difficult.
So what I'm getting from this conversation is that for communication to have a good quality, we need to take responsibility for involving ourselves in the process and not just taking things as they come randomly and just react to them and blame the other person for not getting our message across or not doing what we would like them to do. So that, I think that's a good way to start thinking about communication, and then also is the idea of purpose or intention. So what would be one intention for a conversation to take place, or for a communication process to happen. And another thing that stays with me is this idea of training and of preparation. So things that we need to do before as practice, maybe this presencing that you mentioned, and this CROACH acronym that you used, would definitely involve a little bit of practice before. So while in a difficult conversation, it's really challenging to be able to go through this exercise, or I don't know, process.
Yeah.
So we covered, in my opinion, a lot of insightful information and practices in a very short time. And I would invite you to have a follow-up for this conversation, and get into a little bit more detail, maybe on the topic of conversation, and having meaningful and a high quality communication with others, in high quality relationships. Would that be okay for you?
Yeah, I think that sounds great. Yeah, I love to.
Thank you very much. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for you too.
And that was our today's episode of our Evolutionary Leaders series. Let us know your opinion about the topics we touched, and make sure you share it with the people that would most benefit from listening to it. To be sure you are not missing out on important topics for you, simply subscribe to our channel so that you can get notified when new episodes are released. And also, in order to access our available sustainable performance resources and leadership programs, please reach out or go to our website, avaperformance.com. We will provide you our full support. Until next time, stay curious, open, committed, and creative in discovering new ways to enhance your performance sustainably, so that you enjoy more and more of who you are and what you get to do every day.